Go and ask them. They have got exactly the same strong feeling as I have. Because what we've been through, what we witnessed in a first hand, no one in West, in comfortable West, ever believe it or even imagine it for 1 second, what we've been through. No way, that's not going to be a martyr, and we would love to see every second of it. What we saw yesterday on that picture is one of my favorite pictures, and I've been repeating it over and over and watching it on the internet to make sure it's him. Yes, it's him.
It's that important to you, I can well imagine that.
It's very important.
But what do you say to those who would argue, Freshta, that this still doesn't justify the war we took part in?
I have got a strong message for anti-protesters and those countries like Jacques Chirac was crying his eyes off the week that he was asking for a contract. Please, please, next time, when you bring a cause, any sort of cause forward, and you argue for it, and you're supporting those people to go for protest, a little bit try to study harder, try to understand the situation first, try to understand what these people feel, try to understand, is that illegal when a nation facing a genocide, try to understand what is like of 750,000 bodies has been found in a mass grave, try to understand what does it mean when you have been called as a person, when you attacked by chemical and biological weapon, and when the researcher goes, they say, oops, for another 80 years, you can't have a normal birth. You're going to have a deformed child. And that is a complete genocide, because it means you cannot see a next generation ever in your country. Tell them, if you face that, how do you feel?
We're going to talk to you later throughout this morning's programme. Freshta, thanks very much for coming in.
It's 17 minutes past 6, coming up on the NewsHour as Nicole Kidman pays a flying visit to Britain for the premiere of her new film. She talks exclusively to GMTV about her children and the men in her life.
Hey, join me this week on GMTV, because if I knock on your door, you could be £10,000 richer. Good morning, Keith Chegwin. Oi, you've won 10,000 quid, look. Works every time. Now put the kettle on, love.
For the first time on British television, the parents of Michael Jackson speak out.
He hasn't done anything to deserve this.
If someone came and molested your son, would you ask him for money?
Our son.
Would you?
Michael Jackson, tonight at 8 on ITV1.
Time 19 minutes past 6. Welcome back to the NewsHour here on GMTV. These are the headlines you're waking up to this morning. Coalition forces are preparing to interview Saddam Hussein at length after his capture.
The jury in the Soham murder trial returns to the Old Bailey after failing to reach a verdict on Friday.
And Prince William out and about at university in Scotland. Clarence House releases new pictures.
So what now for Saddam Hussein, and how will the people of Iraq and the Middle East as a whole react to his capture? Well, I'm joined now by Con Coughlin, Deputy Editor of the Daily Telegraph, who's written a biography of Saddam Hussein, and Abdel Bari Atwan, Editor of the Al-Quds newspaper. Good morning to you. Con, you spoke to this man, obviously for your biography. Are you surprised that he gave himself up?
I am, actually. I did think that Saddam would use the last bullet as he promised, and particularly after the fight his sons put up when they were surrounded in Mosul in the summer. And, you know, what we see now is this rather meek, humbled figure. And the real problem for Saddam is for 30 years he built up the great myth of Saddam. It's been destroyed in one shot. Those pictures means he's never going to recover from that. The Iraqi people are never going to be afraid of Saddam again.
Yeah, humiliated is the word that
it springs to mind, yeah.
Yes, keeps coming up time and again. Why do you think he didn't then fight or kill himself?
Well, at heart, Saddam is the great survivor. I mean, whatever Saddam has done throughout his career, survival has been the key. whether it's during the Gulf War or whatever trouble he's got himself into, and faced with the prospect of putting a bullet in his head or being taken into custody and trying to get some kind of deal out of the Americans. And of course, there'll be a lot of people who don't want to put him on trial for various reasons, particularly if he gets a good defence lawyer. So, you know, there's still a way out for Saddam, and Saddam's still alive, and who knows what the future holds.
Do you think his capture will bring about an end to the attacks on the coalition forces?
Well, no, I don't, actually, because the occupation's very unpopular. The Iraqis did not want to be occupied, they wanted to be liberated. And the American presence is unpopular. The American policies are very unpopular. And this insurgency, in my view, won't stop until the Iraqis take control of their country again.
Abdul, would you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. I think now I expect the resistance to escalate. Saddam Hussein was a burden on the resistance. Nobody actually would like to be associated with his legacy, a brutal legacy actually, inside Iraq. So I believe there is a sigh of relief among those people who are against the American occupations. They will say, thank God, we get rid of him. He is not associated with us anymore. We are now fighting for the new Iraq. We are fighting for Iraq, not for Saddam Hussein, as many people actually accused us.
What was your reaction when you heard that he'd been captured?
Well, I was shocked, to be honest. It was humiliation, not only for Saddam Hussein, humiliation for many Arabs, because actually they did not want to see the American emerge as victorious in Iraq itself. But, you know, we haven't seen the other side of the story. What we have told is, you know, what we have seen. It's the American version. We don't know whether Saddam really did surrender, whether he did not fight. We show his picture when he was examined by the doctors, whether they used stunning device, certain gas to paralyze him. So we haven't seen him when he was before they capture him. So I think there is a mystery here, and we have to be told about this in order to believe the American version. Personally, I have my doubt. I am very skeptic when it comes to the American. We know they told us a lot of lies before. They told us that they captured Saddam Hussein, and they didn't. They told us before.
Well, to be fair, there were so many doubles.
Yes, if you remember, they said we killed him. You know, and then you know, they didn't believe that could be the double. They said no, it was Saddam Hussein. So many people believed he was killed, but at the end he emerged alive. So I think even his capture will cause more problem to the American than being free. He will be a martyr. And also, where are they going to try him? In Hague, for example, are they going to deal with him like Milosevic? The trial will take ages, you know, for example, and he will be very smart and defending himself and criticizing the American. It will be a great show for Saddam Hussein.
We have to leave it there. Abdul, Khan, thank you both very much for joining us this morning.
Time now, 23 minutes past 6. Now then, she's one of the most glamorous women in the entire world. She's also one of the most enigmatic. With her new it's not Penny, no, funny enough, it's not you, actually. It could be, quite easily. I mean, I was just thinking the very same thing myself as we led into this. We're actually talking about a young lady who's starring in a new film called Cold Mountain, and Kate Garry went along to find out what actually makes, not Penny, but Nicole Kidman tick.
So, Cold Mountain, an epic love story. You're waiting for your sweetheart, played by Jude Law, to return from the American Civil War. And meanwhile, you're having lots of fun with Renée Zellweger.
Oh, she's amazing in the film, Renee. I mean, she's such a versatile actress, as she's proven.
Name me 3 herbs that grow wild on this farm. I can't, all right? I can talk about farming in Latin. I can read French. I know how to lace up a corset, God knows. I can name the principal rivers in Europe. Just don't ask me to name one stream in this county.
You're such a prolific actress. You're promoting Cold Mountain. You've got 2 more films out in the new year. Does that kind of pressure ever get too much?
Well, you get on a plane, like I am, in 3 days, and you go away for 3 months, and then you just leave it all behind.
And you've obviously got to juggle all of that with being with Isabella and Conan being a mum. Does that make it harder or easier, having that escape?
Oh, no, it makes it harder in terms of you're always going, like at the moment both of them have the flu, so as much as you're dealing with sitting here talking, you're kind of going, okay, so my gosh, I've got to get them on a plane and I hope their temperature comes down, and you deal with all the normal things of why didn't I get them a flu shot?
Yeah, but part of the complications of your family, I guess, like so many families, is you and Tom, father of kids, is you're now divorced. So have you found a way to sort of manage
It's just so
that
weird
now?
when you sit on TV and you have to talk about your sort of...
I know.
I mean, I really don't feel that comfortable going on about it and on about it. It's so long ago now, and we're in a very good position in terms of just parenting our children, and it's just, I try to sort of keep my mouth shut about all of that, primarily for Bella and Connor, because I don't think it's something that benefits them at all.
I'm recently single and I've only got a tiny amount of fame. It's hard to date. So, I mean, you and Lenny Kravitz have been supposedly getting married.
No, I never ever go there, so I can't even...
You can't even talk about it? You can't even talk about whether you're going to get married or not? Why can't you, though?
Because it's just too invasive. When I'm married, if I'm married again, then I will very proudly talk about it. But until that point, as the mother of 2 children, I have to keep some sort of integrity.
So not quite so enigmatic as we thought in the end. Anyway.
Yes.
Well,
She said she wasn't talking very much, but she wasn't going to talk about anything at the moment unless it actually happened.
Yeah, well, fair enough. That's fair enough.
I think that's fair.
There'll be more of that with Kate, an exclusive interview later in the programme in GMTV Today.
Now, you could be in the money, because we're feeling very generous on the news hour. Only, of course, 10 days. Is it only 10 days to Christmas? I did all my Christmas wrapping yesterday.
I'm so pleased, Penny. Where's mine?
I'm still looking for that pair of tights.
Thank you.
Now, we are giving away a grand total of £80,000 in the run-up to Christmas.
There is, of course, a catch. You have to encounter Keith Chegwin on the streets again.
If you want to win £10,000 courtesy of Typhoo and me on your doorstep, here's the question you need to answer. What was the name of Santa's famous red-nosed reindeer? A. Sleepy, B. Rudolph, or C. Snowy? If you think you know the answer, here's how you can enter.
You can dial 09068 100 100. That's 09068 100 100. Or you can text A, B or C as your answer, plus your name and full address to 81149. Or you can enter via the website.
Those lines are open till 11 this morning, so good luck and get dialing.
Yes, Keith Chegwin there.
Yes, at 28 minutes past 6. We've got some news just coming in. The reports that a car bomb has blown off. A bomb. Start this sentence again, shall we? Outside a police station in the Ameri district of Baghdad, there has been a car bomb explosion. We'll have more on that, we hope, a little bit later in the programme.
But let's get the weather with Claire now. She's in Glasgow.
Quaker Oats, the original winter warmer.
Hello, good morning. Now, you may think I'm in a woodland here in Glasgow, lots of snowy, little bits and pieces everywhere, as well as some woodland animals, but I'm actually in a shopping centre, and it's the St Enoch shopping centre here in Glasgow. It's dry inside, not very Christmassy outside, so I can actually take off this hat and throw it away because it's quite warm here in the shopping centre. Outside, it's a bit of a chilly start, quite crisp with the odd patch of ice. Now, over the next few days, we are expecting more cloud to move in from the west, and that's actually going to bring some rain and milder conditions to western and northern areas of the country, but elsewhere it's going to stay mostly dry. And in fact, this morning as you wake up and you head outside, it is worth wrapping up warm because it's very chilly indeed. Temperatures hovering around freezing last night. As I said, there's a risk of some ice on untreated roads, but there will be a lot of sunshine as well, and make the most of the sunshine because later on in the day there will be more cloud moving in from the west. But for much of the day, the bulk of the country is going to be dry and bright, and temperatures at the very best coming in between around 4 and 8 Celsius. So wherever you are, the wind will ease, the showers in the east will slowly die away, and as I said, it's going to be mostly dry but cold. As we head in through this evening and overnight, that cloud gradually thickening over Northern Ireland as well as Scotland, Wales and the West Country, and that's actually going to bring some rain. In fact, across western areas of Scotland, the rain could be preceded by some sleet or even some snow just for a time. And then later on in the night, I think that cloud gradually sweeping right across Scotland, so it could be a bit of a damp end to the night across eastern areas as well as Wales. Elsewhere, it's going to remain dry and like last night, a chilly one. Central and eastern areas coming in around -2 or -3 Celsius. And then for tomorrow, we can see that more cloud across many northern areas, but over the next few days, it will dry up here. Further south across central parts, mostly dry here and bright, and in the south it's a similar scenario. Make the most of it, enjoy the winter sunshine. Let's have a look now at today's summary.
For constantly updated weather information 24 hours a day, visit our website gm.tv/weather.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Trapped like a rat in a hole, the United States get their man. But what will happen to Saddam Hussein now? On the programme this morning, coalition forces celebrate the capture of Saddam Hussein, but what should happen to him next? The former dictator was found hiding in a hole in the ground close to the village where he was born. Iraqi leaders want him tried in Baghdad. The Americans promise he will face the justice denied to millions.
Saddam was the ace of spades in the most wanted list of Iraqi leaders, but could his capture prove potentially embarrassing to Britain and America? Already he's denied having weapons of mass destruction, and to execute him would create a Muslim martyr.
For George Bush and Tony Blair, Saddam's capture is a Christmas present both leaders could only have dreamt of. But while it represents a political boost, it's unlikely to mean an end to the attacks on coalition forces.
In a moment, we'll be crossing live to Baghdad, New York and Downing Street for the latest reaction to Saddam's capture. But first, here's our chief correspondent, Alan Fisher, with the latest.
The end of a tyrant. Saddam Hussein, dishevelled, exhausted and finished. The man who lived in golden palaces found hiding in a hole. The man who ordered his armies to fight to the last bullet, surrendering with no resistance and reportedly with the words, "Don't shoot, I am Saddam Hussein, President of the Republic of Iraq."
He has not been cooperative in terms of talking or anything like that. He clearly was compliant or resigned in effect as he was being examined and as he was being transferred from the hole to the transport that took him away.
After being taken to Baghdad airport, the former dictator is now being held in a secret location thought to be in Qatar. Iraqis have been celebrating Saddam's capture on the street. The decision on where and how he will be tried has still to be taken. Only 13 of the 55 of Iraq's most wanted are still on the run. But this morning, the Allies now have the biggest prize of all.
That from Alan Fisher. Let's find out now what's happening in Iraq this morning and talk to Satinder Dindra from CNN. Satinder, very good morning to you. What is the mood there today?
Good morning, John. The mood here is this is the beginning of a new dawn for Iraq. People have been celebrating all through yesterday. They've been firing thousands of rounds from their Kalashnikovs, and people really believe that the worst for Iraq is over. They believe Saddam's capture will lead to an era of reconciliation, and it's time for all Iraqis to stand shoulder to shoulder and rebuild their country. John?
But given that many of the people causing the trouble in the past few months have been doing so for nationalist reasons, is it not possible that the attacks on the coalition forces will continue?
The view on the ground here is, and I'm talking about public perception in Baghdad, in Tikrit, people do believe that attacks will continue. Here in Baghdad, the overwhelming sense is that attacks against coalition forces will go down. But I must also stress that there is anger against the Americans. Many people here believe that the Americans haven't been fast enough in restoring critical infrastructure like electricity, power. There are long gas lines here. And the overwhelming sense is that the Americans should stay here for the short term, but leave so that Iraqis can build their country themselves.
Well, an early indication that what you're saying is absolutely correct. A car bomb explosion in Baghdad this morning.
Yes, nobody here believes that violence will completely die down in a matter of days, but the sense here is that violence will be reduced. People here want security above everything else, and their belief, at least for the moment, is that the security situation in Iraq has improved with Saddam Hussein's capture.
Satinder, for the time being, thank you very much indeed.
Well, our correspondent Rachel Harrison is in New York. Rachel, a major coup for President Bush.
Yes, Christmas certainly came early at the White House, and this was great news for the president, who's just 11 months away from an election campaign. Crucial bit of information. But the problem has been he was unable to find bin Laden. Now he's found Saddam Hussein. If he hadn't have done that, people would have been beginning to ask the question, what on earth are we doing? And that's certainly been one of the problems. It's been held as an extraordinary day here, but people have been really doubting the president. This is the first bit of good news to come out of Iraq since Jessica Lynch was rescued back in April. They were desperately looking for some good news. He's been hit hard by the polls. People are concerned about his ability to handle the war, and indeed, why on earth did they go to the war? This was the psychological boost they were really looking for, and the American people have received this news today very warmly.
I think this is finally going to give us the support that we need and let them know that we don't stop until we get what we're looking for.
I wish he was the answer to our problems, but I think it's a bigger picture than that.
Now, I have to say there's a word of caution. If there is going to be a trial, the big subject of weapons of mass destruction will be brought up, which could be very tricky for not only the President here, but the Prime Minister back home as well.
Rachel, thank you.
OK, well, listening to all that in Downing Street, our political reporter, Gloria De Pero. Gloria, the Prime Minister obviously delighted, but cautious as well, yeah?
Yes, he didn't want to sound jubilant about the capture of Saddam Hussein. Instead, he wanted to focus on the opportunity for the Iraqi people to create a new and united Iraq. So good news, very much good news today for the Prime Minister, but in the longer term there are some questions that really won't go away. There's that inquiry into the death of Dr. David Kelly, which will report in mid-January, and crucially the need to find those weapons of mass destruction. Those issues aren't going to go away, but today even his most fierce critics will have difficulty not welcoming the new capture of Saddam Hussein.
Gloria, for the timing, thanks very much indeed.
Time is 6:36. Let's get a summary of the rest of the news from Carla.
Penny, thank you. Good morning. The jury in the Soame murder trial returns to the Old Bailey today after spending the weekend at home. On Friday, they failed to reach verdicts against Ian Huntley and Maxine Carr. Jonathan Swain, who's been following the trial, is at the Old Bailey. Jonathan, good morning. Now, 5 hours of deliberation already on Friday, evidently some sticking points.
Well, Carla, the jury have been told to return a unanimous verdict, and on Friday they asked to see the bath from Ian Huntley's home in Soame. This is the bath in which Ian Huntley claims Holly Wells fell into and then died. Well, Holly and Jessica disappeared from their homes in Soame on August the 4th last year. Their bodies were found some 2 weeks later, lying in a ditch in Lakenheath in Suffolk. Well, the judge has told jurors that just because Ian Huntley has admitted that he dumped the girls' bodies, it doesn't mean that he murdered them. And he's told jurors that they could return a verdict of either manslaughter or of murder. Well, deliberations will continue here at the Old Bailey at 10:30 this morning. When we get a verdict, Carla, well, that's anybody's guess.
All right, Jonathan, for now, thank you. The events surrounding the death of Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed will, for the first time, be aired in a British court today. Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, who has a Scottish home, is being allowed to challenge a decision which denied him a public inquiry in Scotland into their deaths. Mr Al-Fayed is hopeful a judicial review will reveal the truth behind the Paris car crash, which he claims was no accident. As Ozzy Osbourne battles to recover his health after his quad bike accident last weekend, the injured rocker's fight to be #1 this Christmas is paying dividends. A duet with daughter Kelly is at the top of the charts this morning. The reworked Black Sabbath track Changes is currently beating pop idol Will Young and veteran crooner Cliff Richard to that crucial Christmas slot. 38 minutes past 6. Now, here's what's happening where you are.
Hello, very good morning to you. The mother of a man shot dead in Liverpool a year ago is appealing for help to catch her son's killer. Carl Seaton was out with friends when he was gunned down last December. Anne O'Connor reports.
Two masked men opened fire on the 28-year-old as he left a pub in Wavertree with his girlfriend last December. Carl Seaton's family say it's their third tragedy. His 2 young children died of leukemia and meningitis before the age of 3. No one has been convicted of Carl's murder. His mother is making an anniversary appeal for information.
It'd be nice to have them off the street, so they wouldn't be doing it to anybody else as well. Yeah, it would be good. It's not going to bring Carl back, but get people off the street who are dangerous.
Detectives particularly want to speak to people who were in the pub and around the area at the time who haven't come forward.
3 people have died in 3 separate road accidents in Cheshire. An elderly man died after being hit by a car on the A534 in Sandbach. In Warrington, a 25-year-old man suffered fatal injuries in a crash on Farmworth Road in Penketh. And the driver of a Rover car was killed after his vehicle was in collision with a lorry on the M6 between junctions 19 and 18. The former medical director of Alderhay Children's Hospital, Dr. John Martin, is to appear before the General Medical Council today, charged over the organ retention scandal. The Redfern report into the taking of organs, published in January 2001, revealed the shocking scale of the affair. It's alleged Dr. Martin failed to take adequate steps to act upon information given to him as medical director at the time. He faces a charge of serious professional misconduct. Liverpool's answer to the Angel of the North statues being lit up in time for Christmas. The Mersey Wave on Speke Boulevard is the largest piece of commissioned art in the city. It's the same size as 7 double-decker buses and can be seen up to a mile away. Quick look at the region's roads now. In Oldham, the A62 is down for 1 lane on Oldham Way. The A5080 Farnworth Road at Penketh closed due to that accident. 2 lanes blocked also on the M6 southbound between Tabley to Holmes Chapel because of an accident. In Lancashire on the M6, delays expected due to bridge repairs between Lancaster and Preston. Finally, water mains repairs in St Helens on Merseyside on the A58 between Linkway Roundabout and Blackbrook. I'm back in half an hour. Next, the region's weather.
Come on, mate. Brighten up your winter with the fresh smell of summer.
And it's a cold and bright start to the day with plenty of sunshine throughout the morning. Cloud will increase during the afternoon, but it will remain dry. Temperatures today struggling to reach 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit.
"18 minutes to 7 is the time. Welcome back to the News Hour here on GMTV. Only one story dominating the newspapers, obviously, this morning. That's the Sun. We got him, with that picture none of us will ever forget, I don't think. Daily Mail, Saddam, mighty dictator, caught like a rat in a hole, is their headline. And in the Independent, the tyrant is now a prisoner. Well, in a moment, we're going to be crossing live to Washington to talk to political analyst Stephen Brand. That's him there. But first, let's join Labour MP Anne Clwyd in Cardiff, who's Tony Blair's special representative in Iraq. Anne, thanks very much indeed for getting up to talk to us this morning. Your feelings as dawn broke today?
Well, you know, I'm very pleased that Saddam Hussein has been caught. I've been involved in human rights in Iraq for 25 years, and I've looked forward for a very long time for this particular day.
Should happen to him now?
Well, I hope that he stands trial quite soon because he is accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide, kind of things he did to the Kurds in the Anfal campaign when thousands of them disappeared, the chemical weapons he used against them in Halabja, and of course the Shia in the south where they were disappeared, many of them executed, mass graves in Hilla with 10 to 15,000 people buried in them, they estimate. And then the Marsh Arabs, the people whose homeland waters were just drained from the land on which they lived. He's got a lot to answer for, and I hope that for the relatives of those who were executed and tortured and disappeared, lie in the mass graves, I hope those people will get some satisfaction from hearing Saddam on trial.
Indeed. We have had, you may not know this, Anne, but we've had reports of a car bomb explosion in Baghdad this morning. We're not certain on the numbers of dead. It may be 4, it may be 9, but certainly some dead. An early indication that although we have Saddam a captive now, the trouble is far from over.
Yes, I'm sure there will be a period of time when this kind of thing continues to happen. Remember, his Fedayeen, his crack troops are still around. They did not really fight in the war. There are extremists from other countries, and there are the Baathists, you know, the ones who were very important in his regime. Some of those will be still, I think, fighting back, maybe for some time to come.
If he goes to trial and we have a long, drawn-out hearing, and if, as it seems likely, we still don't find any weapons of mass destruction because there are reports saying he's denying still that Iraq ever had any, won't that still be an embarrassment for people like you and Tony Blair who advocated this war so powerfully?
Saddam will go on trial, I'm certain of that. I was in Iraq a week ago, and the Governing Council of Iraqis were talking then about the tribunal, war crimes tribunal they've now set up. So there's no doubt at all about that. And several others, of course, like Tariq Aziz, Ali Hassan al-Majid, Chemical Ali. A lot of these people are in custody. I think by now there are 48 of the 55 most wanted and indict the organisation I chaired, which gathered evidence on Iraqi war crimes for 7 years in 15 countries. We've got a lot of evidence that can incriminate these people, so there's no doubt they will go on trial. Now, I always argue that human rights abuses going back to the mid-70s, which is the time I got involved in Iraq, were the main reason for toppling Saddam Hussein. It may be that weapons of mass destruction will be found. I was talking to some Americans from the Iraq survey team, and I was there a week ago, and they're very confident they will find some. But I have to say, it was never my own argument, because I was always concerned because of the terrible atrocities that I knew were being committed there all the time, that was the reason the regime should go.
OK, there we have to leave it. Anne, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Joining us now from our Washington studio is the political analyst Stephen Brand. Good morning. This is going to be a huge relief for President Bush, isn't it?
That's right. This is, in a way, a very early Christmas present for the Bush White House, and you've got to imagine they're very happy today.
But I spoke just a short while ago to the editor of an Arab newspaper here, who was saying this is actually the start of the problems for the coalition forces. He is saying that there will be an escalation of attacks on troops because actually the Iraqis don't like this occupation, as they see it, particularly by the Americans.
Well, there's some likelihood of some retribution attacks, but you've got to think that the capture of Saddam Hussein sort of takes off the head of this insurgency. While Saddam may not have been involved in the day-to-day planning of this, he was certainly the symbol and figurehead behind it. And now they have no leader, and that's got to help.
But isn't that absolutely true? Because it does seem that there he was in this hole in the ground, this rat hole, as it were, and there are suggestions that actually he wasn't running anything, that he had nothing there with which to actually run anything at all.
But without him, Baathism has no head, and it's got to take some of the wind out of the sails of the insurgency. At least let's hope.
How much is this going to affect the support for President Bush in Iraq?
In Iraq or here in the United States?
Well, for President Bush and the war in Iraq.
Here in the States, it's a big win for him, and it's going to help. But at the end of the day, when people go to vote next November, it's going to be, the question on everyone's mind is what does the situation look like then on the ground, and how many American troops are in Iraq, and how are they faring there, and how much further we've gotten towards our goal of stabilizing the country.
Has there been any talk over there about what happens now with Saddam Hussein? I mean, when will he be handed over to the Iraqis, where he is now, in fact?
There's a lot of talk about what happens to him now, and how he gets tried, and what kind of court, and it looks like it may be a tribunal in Iraq, and there's all kinds of questions being raised about the legal context for that.
Stephen Brand, thank you very much.
12 minutes to 7 the time. These are the headlines you're waking up to this morning. A car bomb has gone off in Baghdad as coalition forces prepare to interview Saddam Hussein. We're not sure about numbers. It's possible as many as 9 people are dead.
The jury in the Soham murder trial returns to the Old Bailey after failing to reach a verdict on Friday.
Prince William out and about at university in Scotland. Clarence House releases these new pictures.
It's 6:49. What a shock we had on Saturday when the Pop Idol finalists were announced.
The next person through to the Pop Idol final next week is Mark.
Well,
John.
What to do?
He was sitting there, weren't you, John? You were sitting at home going,
Well, I wasn't
no.
actually. No, I can't be. I was at a wedding, as a matter of fact.
Okay, right. Well,
But
you would have wanted
I was there in spirit.
in spirit.
Yeah, in
Yes.
more ways than one, actually. Yeah.
So that was Sam the favourite going out. Mark and Michelle through to the final. Here to discuss the drama of Saturday night, Jonathan Shallett. Well, you won a bit of money, didn't you, on that?
Well, I mean, yes, I did. And I suspected Mark was going to win. Very simply because last year everyone thought Gareth was going to beat Will, and then Will beat Gareth. And I think the same kicked in. As the show gets bigger and the audiences get older, you still have young people, you have a lot of older people as well. And Mark was amazing. When you look at the last song that Mark did, which was If You Don't Know By Now, he really is electrifying.
For me to give up, I feel it's time. Got a picture of you beside me. Got your lipstick mark still on your coffee cup.
A bit like Boyzone, isn't he? Like something out of Boyzone or
Look how big
Westlife.
they were. So
Yes.
if he's a bit
No,
like
but
Boyzone.
he has got that sort of feel about him.
And when Sam doing a Bon Jovi cover, I mean, here's one of the heavy. I mean, what a choice of song. That's what I felt on. I don't think the show's rigged. I think they're helping Michelle. But to give Michelle the songs they gave Michelle is saying to the audience, here she is on a plate for her to win.
Well, there are stories in the papers, one of the papers this morning, complaints from people saying that the whole thing was rigged, that people couldn't get through to vote for the person of their choice, or they got through to the wrong line. All denied.
Well, it was engaged,
you know, every time.
All denied, I have to say, by the company. Say there's nothing wrong with the system.
Of course,
at all.
every time there's a television vote competition, people complain they can't get through. The companies behind Pop Idol are very professional companies. They have systems in place to make sure the voting's fair.
Well, let's just quickly look at what Michelle and Mark had to say when we caught up with them.
A few tricks up my sleeve from work. We're leaving them a little present wherever we go, put it that way. Some tactics that we can use, but I don't want to give it all away just now. You know me, I love a joke.
It's crazy. The final will be just an amazing event. So who would have thought me and Michelle would have been in the final, you know? So yeah, we're going to be